Hello, everybody, and welcome to another adventure in history. I'm your host, Shane McInnes. I'm a dude that really likes history, if you haven't figured that out already. Hey, with the adventure hat. Welcome, Calm Heart. Adventure! Oh, is that a new burrito? Okay, a new burrito has been created. Hello, Kyle. Hello, Daria. Nice. Oh man, my wife loves burritos so much. For those of you that are unfamiliar, Daria Axanova, friend of the channel, all around good person, has a pet burrito. Has a pet opossum, and the opossum's name is Burrito. So there you go. Has a Instagram account you can go follow and do all of that fun stuff. Feel free to share links, Daria, if you want. Oh, but welcome. Happy Tuesday to everybody. You like pet burrito better? If I had a pet burrito, I don't know how long it would last. Man, I love Mexican food so much. Though I know burritos aren't technically Mexican food. They're more like an American invention, Tex-Mex kind of thing. But there we go. Pet burrito named opossum. Something like that, right? Hope everybody's doing all right. The show is Adventures in History, where we talk about stuff in a conversational, approachable, easy, laid-back kind of manner. We're all friends here. Everybody is pretty chill, and we try to just have a good time, right? History doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be stuffy. It doesn't have to be ivory tower kind of stuff. So, hope everybody's happy, doing okay. The world is going bonkers around us. Hope everybody is enduring that emotionally. Opossum burrito has probably been on a Mississippi menu before. Oh, probably. I don't know where that would be, but I'm sure it would be there. Hey, Fit, how's it going? Great stream title, by the way. Yeah. I can't claim full ownership of that one. I was running into some trouble earlier in the day. There's so many different ways that you can go about thinking of really pun or musical or goofy titles for the show. And I couldn't really get any traction on it, so I reached out to the mods. Hey, Galanua. I was hoping that you would arrive. Otherwise, I would think you would probably be very, very sad if you missed this one. For those of you unaware, Galanuva has been pushing for the Mongolian expansion of the medieval period for like forever. Not forever, but I think Mongols had literally been on the list of viewer requests since the first inception of the viewer request idea. Oh, no. Yeah, we've gone back to every other week for viewer requests. Mostly because I have so much other stuff to go kind of dig through on my personal end. I keep thinking that summer is going to be a time off because, I don't have to go work, but I'm basically just as busy as I was doing regular work. I have group projects in classes for masters, which just doesn't, I don't know. Group work by itself is the bane of my existence, but on a master's level, I just don't know what the larger scheme of it is. So yeah, I've got a lot of stuff on the plate, even though it is summertime. I also have to retrofit all of my classes that I would normally teach in the fall to work online, just in case some inevitable thing happens and we go back to online learning completely because of COVID, which I expect to happen within probably about 2 weeks of us trying to do classes in person. So I do want to kind of make it a little bit of an announcement before we really get involved in things. For the last couple of days, our network, our wireless network and our computer internet work has just been absolutely jacked up. I don't know what's going on. There have been a lot of storms in the area, so I don't know if lines are down or people are just using a lot, have 18 devices hooked up to the local network. I don't know what's going on. But if we do drop, we will just roll with it. Let me know. I'm sort of keeping an eyeball on my little monitor over here, and it is giving me a red flash every now and then, which is a bit disconcerting, but hopefully we'll stay up and running. If we do drop, just give me a shout. Let me know. So let's do the rundown. As always, if you want to send me an email, you can send me an email right here, mckinnistravels@gmail.com. For all of your history needs, if you have any questions, if you want to give me feedback on anything, if you just want to send something that you've read in the news, cool beans. Instagram @somehistoryguy, also Twitter @somehistoryguy. You can send me all sorts of little things there if you want to. What else? We do have a Discord, which we just started. It is still sort of in its incubating phase. I've been toying around with it for the last week or so. I've got a few little things on there that I think are, I guess, interesting. I've got some stuff that I think might be what people want to do when it comes to Discord kind of things. But let me know if you have ideas about Discord. I'd be happy to take input on that. You can click that link that I just posted and go hook into the channel. Other than that, yeah, it's viewer request night. So this is every other Tuesday we do a request episode where I let the...
I'm Spartacus!
I am Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
I am Spartacus. Thanks, KP, for that Twitch Prime sub. And just as a reminder, if you are an Amazon Prime subscriber, you already get a free subscription every month to do with as you please. All you have to do is link Twitch and Amazon, and the instructions are right there. If you do want to subscribe, I greatly appreciate that. There is no pressure. It helps me out. I'm working on saving up to buy some new tech stuff. So that's where all that money is going to go. Otherwise, I guess we can just kind of roll around onto the Mongols. Yeah. So, who are these Mongols, and why are they important, and what do they do, and why do we remember them so much? Well, first off, let's go to the map, as we love to do so much. So the modern-day country of Mongolia is this guy right here, just north of what is today China. The capital is the modern-day city of Ulaanbaatar. You don't necessarily need to know that. Weird little fact about it. So this is a freebie. World capital. First, let's watch the movie Attila. So Attila is a Hun who are sort of a... they're a similar type of people in that they are a bunch of horseback archery enthusiasts that do a lot of damage over in Europe and conquer a whole bunch of area. The Huns are fairly distant through time, separate from the Mongols. Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. No worries. They are very similar. They are both sort of an amalgamation of horseback peoples from the steppe country of Asia. They both do have very big empires. They both cause lots of trouble over in Europe. But the Huns are going to be a lot more active in the 300s and 400s AD. The Mongols aren't really going to be a big threat until the life of Genghis Khan in the 1200s AD. So that's an easy thing to get mixed up, especially because schools today don't teach things in context. So no worries, calm heart. I would give you partial credit for just knowing that they're similar. So anyway, this is Mongolia today. Oh yeah, Huns are pretty early. Huns were involved in the collapse of Rome. So Rome fell in 476 in the west, and the Huns were prior to that. So, yep. Han Solo is your favorite? Yeah. So, what we're going to be talking about as a homeland for our ancient Mongolians is going to be a similar region, but it's also going to be much more over towards the Pacific. So, this whole region here, in what used to be just to the north of the traditional sort of Chinese imperial lands, are going to be the home of the original people that might be Mongols. So, the thing about trying to figure out who the Mongols are and figure out a lot about them, one of the problems is that they don't have a written language for a very, very, very long time. And what that means is there aren't really any sources that tell the history of the Mongol people from their point of view until after they are well developed as a culture, which puts these historians writing about stuff from centuries prior and recording oral histories and myths and legends and things like that. And those have value, absolutely. But we all know that the further away from the event, the likelihood of them being inaccurate or embellished is quite high. So we have to look to other cultures to get an idea about who these Mongols are. And because of their proximity to China, we do get a lot of references to the people that are to the north of China. And these people are always referred to as barbarians, people with lower levels of relative culture to the Chinese. Of course, the Chinese empires have been going very strongly since the 2000s BC range. So they had centralized government and taxation and kingdoms and empires and all that stuff well before the Mongols would have even been sort of an organized people group. So we also have to be careful when we read these Chinese sources because they're also going to be looking at these people from a very biased point of view, right? You can't really get a good sense of who these people are during that time period. So we know that there are a lot of people that might be the Mongols. There's a group of people called the Donghu people that are sort of proto-Mongols. There's also a couple of different groups of people called the Shanbei and the Wuhu. Whether or not these are all groups of people that one day go on to be the Mongols, or whether or not these are Chinese sort of equivalents to the Mongols, we don't really know very well. If we go to science, which is a lot easier to Donghu, it's spelled like this. Donghu or Wuhu. The other one is Xianbei. And I need to shrink this down. I get way too carried away with the font size here. Pretty sure you all can read that, right? Yeah. Just the who. There's a Mongolian heavy metal group. I'm fairly certain they're just called the Who, but it's spelled H-U. Or something like that. Or maybe one of their songs is The Who, yeah. This is not Blur song number 2. Oh, so it is The Who. They are incredible. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I've listened to some of their songs. They play traditional Mongolian instruments as well as playing rock music. They involve a lot of chanting. So if you haven't seen that already, I know it went Woohoo Tang Clan. Oh, man. Woohoo Tang is for the children, right? Did they do a lot of Pete Townsend covers? No, probably not. They actually do play pretty good music. You should go check them out on YouTube. Maybe not right now, but later on. Or if you just get tired of hearing me talk and you want to listen to a musical interlude, go check out The Who. Getting back on track here. I just realized, by the way, that I don't have my my lighting rig on, which is my fault. I guess I can turn this one on, but it's just going to kind of drown me out without the lights behind me. Is that better or worse? let's just roll with it. Why not? I've been really scatterbrained today. I spent 6 hours working on a PowerPoint presentation for a group project that I'm having to do by myself, so I apologize for being a little bit less. Yes, I know I'm super pasty and white. Don't be hating. Usually I have lights behind me. Oh, shut up, man. You're just killing me. If we're trying to figure out who the Mongolian people are, and we look at science, science can help us out quite a bit. Because science, of course, has genetic markers, and they can tell when people have lived in isolated communities or people that have common ancestry and things like that. I should fire my lighting guy. That's me. I quit. Not taking this crap anymore. Anyway, if we look at modern-day Mongolian people, we can trace the genetic line back about 2,000 years. To a group of people that are, I'm sorry, not 2,000 years, to about 2000 BC, so about 4,000 years. Whether or not those people were the dominant tribes that existed in one of these groups, we don't know. Again, we don't have a lot of really good factual sources that talk about them because they're all either biased or recorded much, much later from oral traditions. So I know you guys pick on me because you love me. I pick back because I love you guys. So it's all good. Brittany abuses me. That I don't know. I'd be interested in hear why you abuse me. That'd be an interesting topic to discuss, or maybe not. Maybe not on stream. I'm gonna leave that right there. Yeah. Yeah. Blink twice if you need me to call someone. I'm fine. I don't need any help. She's tiny, but I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be able to take her because it would just be so cute. Like if she came at me, she's so small. For those of you that don't know, my wife is very, very small. I have a foot on her and about 100 plus pounds on her because she's very tiny. But of course she knows where I sleep, so you could be there in an hour. Oh, man. I'm fine. In all earnestness, I'm fine. My wife and I pick on each other a lot. In good nature. That knife is so adorable. Oh, goodness gracious. So, another thing that we can look at to try to figure out who these Mongolian people are and get a little bit of a grip on where and when they came from is their language. We've got some pretty good evidence of linguistic ties to older languages like Turkish. So if you know anything about the history of the Turks, they are also another one of these sort of steppe people that originate in this region up here. It's pretty clear that the Mongolian people also shared a lot of cultural ties with the sort of larger steppe. And when I say steppe here, it's S-T-E-P-P-E. This sort of flat region of Central Asia right here where there's really tall grass and lots of horses. So Turkish and Mongolian have some similar linguistic ties. The older languages that are of the Mongolian heritage are probably linked back with that Xianbei group of people that I talked about. And by the time we get to people like Genghis Khan, who we'll talk about extensively in just a little bit, they're using something that linguists call Middle Mongolian. So it's not exactly the same language as modern Mongolian, which has a lot more both Russian and Chinese influence on it. But you would probably be able to, if you spoke Mongolian today, you would probably be able to understand a lot of the people that spoke Mongolian around Genghis Khan's time. I just assumed they had lots of stairs. Yeah, the steppe. No, it's just one big stair, and it goes all the way across Central Asia. Just one big steppe. It's called the steppe, not the steps. I'll take it. So, I know what I just told you is we don't know a lot about Mongolian history when it comes to where they came from. And that's true of a lot of people. One of the things about history that sort of gets taken for granted is that we don't know a lot about a lot. And if you take a history class, 9 times out of 10, unless your history teacher is really honest and open, they're going to just pretend like we know all of this stuff. But we don't, and it's okay to admit that, right? We have some tangential evidence, we have some linguistic evidence, some genetic evidence, but until we get to the larger life of Genghis Khan, we don't really know too terribly much about the history of the Mongol people, and that's okay. That's okay. That's the Great Wall is. The Great Wall is just a big step. But the wall is way over here in China. And the wall was also Pink Floyd, not The Who. So, oh man. So these people are steppe people. They are nomadic. They are herds people. Their chief herding animal is the horse. Horses in Mongolia are not what you might consider, like if you watch a movie and you see a bunch of Mongolian people riding around on horses, most of the time history people that work on movies don't get their way. They say you shouldn't use that kind of horse, you should use this kind of horse, because like for example, if you watch a lot of the stuff that comes out of Chinese theater, they're not using real Mongolian horses. The horses that the Mongolian people would have used and herded and lived in very close harmony with are sort of short and broad-shouldered and stocky. They're not the tall, graceful-limbed Arabian stallions that you see a lot. We don't need no education. How are the Mongols going to eat their pudding if they won't eat their meat? They do eat horse meat. They ate lots of horse meat, and they also drank horse milk. And had an alcoholic beverage that was fermented horse milk. So they're all about some horses, these people. Are you telling me that the Mongols rode chonky horses? They did. They did ride chunky horses. Of course they would. I've never actually had horse, but the sort of Western concept that eating horse is negative comes a lot more from our culture than it does from history, because in ancient times people ate horses a lot, and in large portions of the world there's nothing weird about eating a horse. We've just been brought up to think of horses as valuable pack animals because they were super valuable, and when they came to the New World they weren't as prolifically spread around as they were in the Old World, so you had to take care of them a lot and you couldn't eat the horses. So you gotta not eat the horses. So eat it in Germany. Yeah, see, there you go. When you go over to the Old World, man, there are horses all over the place, and horse is just another meat, right? It's the main horse for dinner in many places. Oh gosh, with the horse puns. Oh man, I'm loving the horse puns. Good times. So let's talk a little bit about their religion. I do like to pull their religious beliefs out as sort of a mini lecture within the discussion. The Mongolian people were originally shamanistic, right? So they didn't have what we would call an organized religion. They had more of a folklore, mythology, sort of common cultural set of ideas that wasn't necessarily formalized or standardized. But around the time of the larger unification, they convert to a Turkish religion called Tengrism. And this is the worship of a god called Tengri. And I would love to show you a picture of Tengri, except for the fact that he's not anthropomorphic. He doesn't have a human-like form, so you can't really draw a picture of him. He's more of a disembodied universal spirit. And there's a lot of discussion amongst religious scholars as to whether or not this is the impact of stuff like Buddhist faith or Confucian faith, or even Hindu faith, thinking maybe Tengri is like Brahman, the sort of universal spirit. We eat horses too. There we go. Comhart, I don't actually know where you're located. If you feel comfortable sharing that, please do. I've actually been toying around with getting a big map of the world and coloring in Finland. There we go. Coloring in countries as we have people that come into the chat from different places around the world. So my wife, by the way, has been to Finland. I have not. I'm very jealous of her trip over there. Had a good time, she did. So who is Tengri and what's going on? So Tengri is the creator of the universe. He's also sort of considered a sky god, but it's mostly because the sky is sort of this big open thing. And again, Tengri doesn't have like a manifestation of a human. In most modern interpretations of Tengrism, because it's still around, by the way, there are still people following Tengrism. But in the modern versions, it's a purely monotheistic religion. There's a lot of evidence that back around this time period that we're talking, around the life of, like Genghis Khan, that it was monotheistic amongst the sort of ruling class, but most of the sort of common people admitted that Tengri was the god, but there were also other gods. The way that they sort of tried to synchronize this was, okay, other gods can exist, but they're really just different versions of Tengri. So there's only one god called Tengri, and all of the other gods, like Zeus or Athena or Aphrodite or whomever you wanted to pick, were just avatars of Tengri. And people see this as yet more evidence that they were influenced with their religious development by Hinduism, because of course you have gods like Vishnu that have lots of avatars and different ways to show up. So you hide the horse meat, and that's okay. For those of you that have had horse, what is it like? I've never actually had horse before. I've had lots of weird things, but I've never had horse. I don't necessarily think horse is weird. I shouldn't say weird. I should say atypical for an American palate. How about that? Tengri is hard to describe when it comes to how you relate to Tengri. In most religions, you have something called a dogma, or way to hedge. You have a set of practices that are sort of standard practices that everybody follows, or you have a catechism, or you have commandments, or you have whatever you have in your religion. But in Tengrism, that doesn't really exist. Tengri is actually like super laid back. He's referred to as a he, but again, he's anthropomorphic, or he's not anthropomorphic, so he doesn't necessarily have a gender. But basically, Tengri sort of like looks at the human race and goes, all right, are you being decent, or are you being a jerk? And if you're being decent, Tengri's cool with you. And if you're being a jerk, well, that's when he's not going to be cool with you anymore. And there's not even necessarily a whole bunch of like punishments from Tengri. There aren't lots of like lightning bolts that fall out of the sky and fry people that are insulting Tengri. It's a lot more like you're not going to receive Tengri's blessing unless you're being a cool person. And this concept of blessing from Tengri is pretty important, because this is how your rulers get to rule. They get the blessing from Tengri, and a lot of people point to this and say, it's not just Hinduism, it's also Buddhism and Confucianism that influence Tengrism, because you have this concept of the mandate of heaven, which we've talked about a little bit when we were talking about the Zhou dynasty. So if you're a just ruler and you rule with goodness and you treat everybody the right way, Tengri will bless you. Otherwise, Tengri is just big on you being a cool person. Are you being righteous? Are you living an upright life? Okay, cool beans. There's not really a lot of evidence of the Mongols persecuting anybody else for their religion. Tengri seems to be okay with other people doing other religions. You're just not going to get his blessing. I found one smoked horse. I liked it probably more than beef. I'll have to check it out. I don't know if we can butcher horses in America for meat. I might have to order something off of Amazon. So Tengri's a pretty cool guy. Again, you don't see lots of forced conversions. So the Mongols are about to take over essentially all of Asia and big chunks of Europe. But they never really forced Tingrism on people. They're just like, look, our god's way cooler than your god. Otherwise, we wouldn't have beaten you up. So don't you want to come be cool with our god? And some people are like, yeah. And other people are like, no. And they're like, okay, well, whatever. Horse salami. No, that sounds tasty. I'm a fan of the salted and cured meats. So Tingri, and another kind of weird thing is like Tingri doesn't really require you to worship him. Like Tingri is aware that he is the creator god and that he is omnipotent, and you don't really have to worship him, because like if you tell Tingri, oh Tingri, you were great, he's like, yeah, I know I'm great. I made everything. So okay, cool. I mean, you sing nice, but there we go. You don't think you could do it? What? Worship Tingri or eat horse? So Tingrism also doesn't have a scripture, so there's not necessarily a single book that you have to read. Now, there is later a book written in Turkish that sort of tries to outline Tingrism, but it's not necessarily considered scripture. It's just more like, if you're interested in Tingrism, here is a pamphlet, right? To eat horse. Yeah. I'll give anything a shot once or twice. If people eat it somewhere, it can't be the most horrible thing in the world. Though I'm sure somewhere out there is the most horrible thing in the world. There are only a couple of things that I've ever completely decided that I would never try. Like civet cat poop coffee. I want none of that. I want none of that. I've had chitlins, which are, washed and cleaned pig intestines, and that's pretty weird. I've had organ meats from lots of different animals. I've been out there adventurous, but civet cat poop coffee, right out. None of that. So there we go. So you don't necessarily have to read certain scriptures to be cool with Tingri. Tingri also doesn't really care that much about temples. Now, you'll see sacred sites with Tingrism, places where maybe miracles have happened, or places where certain events in Tingrist history have happened. Genghis Khan used to go to this particular mountain to pray a lot to Tingri. Good sausage should be cased in intestines. There was an African tribe who eat fat tissues surrounding the colon as a delicacy. There we go. Haggis, I've had it. It didn't really taste very much like anything. It tasted salty. And it was very chewy. But, I guess if you threw enough hot sauce on it. You would not try? Okay. This isn't Shane Eats Weird Food stream, though I'm sure I could probably get more Twitch followers if I sat around and ate weird food on stream. Tonight we're cooking beef heart. There we go. Brains are hard for me to get around. I would try them, but I would probably have some really tough, mental urges to not eat that. I might eat it and love it, though. Bizarre Foods with Shane McInnes, right? Yeah. I'd probably get a bajillion followers, and I would make a partner tomorrow or something like that. That dude ate goat something or other yesterday. Goat's actually really good. I like goat a lot. But, aw, brains are a big nope. Focus. I'm sorry, I'm getting off track here, and I'm being reminded to talk about the Mongols. Okay, so Tingri doesn't need scripture. Tingri doesn't really need temples. Tingri doesn't necessarily need your praise. Tingri just wants you to be a cool guy. Or a cool girl. Or a cool person. Just be cool. Be excellent to each other. So, We're crushing the Mongol stream. It's being invaded by organ meats. The Mongols believed, and Tingrism holds, that there are souls in all animals and living things. One of the reasons why Mongols and their horses are so close is that they actually do look at animals as having souls. Humans, by the way, have lots of souls. It depends on particular branches of Tingrism, but sometimes humans are seen to have 5 souls or 7 souls or 3 souls. And there's like a soul of the breath and a soul of the blood and that kind of stuff. So it is the will of Tingri. I just did a spell check, but is Tegrism... Yeah, good call. That's supposed to be Tingrism. Good call there. Very good call. It is the will of Tingri. So, there is an afterlife. There is also kind of good and bad versions of the afterlife. There are lots of different levels of the universe. Some versions have like different dimensions of living on Earth and living in the afterlife and living around. They do believe in some limited versions of reincarnation, and it seems to be linked with generations. So if you do get reincarnated, it's typical for you to perhaps come back 7 generations later. And the number of 7 has a lot of numerological importance in Tingrism. So there we go. So there's Tingri. I do have a couple of pictures that I can show you here. Because Tingri doesn't necessarily have, an image or a likeness, you see this image here used quite a lot. This is Tingri, and it's written in the runes of the people from that time period. This is a very, very common symbol. This is supposed to look like the top of a yurt, which brings us to this thing. For those of you that don't know, a yurt is a portable, traditional Mongolian living style house, and you can see one here, and I had to go find one that would show this opening here at the top. The opening, of course, traditionally is to let out smoke. You can see that this is a modern one because it has an actual smoke pipe. I know what to put on my Mongol shield now. Yes, the symbol of Tingri. There you go. Tingri really doesn't care so much about your battles, though, just as a note. People fighting is kind of below Tingri. The coolest part is just to be nice to each other and be just. Now, there is such thing as a just war, and fighting to protect the innocent and to defend your people. That's one thing. You're not really going to see like crusades in the name of Tingri, though. You mean a chimney. So yeah, this thing right here is a, what did I say, stovepipe or smoke pipe? There is always a just war. Right. So I think we're all kind of familiar with that concept. So, all right. Ooh, wrong scene there. As far as I know, the Mongols didn't have much in the way of personal heraldry. Yeah, they really didn't. And part of that is because just the way that the Mongol world works, and that actually is a really good transition. Their government really wasn't centralized. You had a lot of people that sort of lived in clans, but even the clans didn't necessarily stay cohesive very long because there's lots of fighting. Even amongst their own people, there is not really a unified group for very long. Even clans would split when 2 powerful male figures would rise to the top of the clan. So you get lots of dividing and combining, and people that used to be enemies are now friends, and we've intermarried, and now our clans are going to merge. You like Tingri? He seems pretty cool. Yeah, it's an interesting religion. So that's something that I can use for the SCA. There you go. Absolutely. So the thing about the Mongol government structure is that they are very, very much patrilineal. So you receive portions of your father's goods upon his death, but as they are very nomadic, individuals don't have lots of individual goods. And this is also part of the reason why it's so hard for one leader to take over and create large portions of Mongol warriors, is because they're always moving around and there aren't really very many cities. And the places that we would call Mongol cities are really just agreed upon periodic meeting zones where lots of tribes would come together for perhaps religious or cultural events, competitions between clans, places that were designated as treaty zones, where if you had an argument with another clan, you could go to sort of this area that's kind of like sacred ground or holy ground and have discussions. Pretty fly for a god guy. One thing I will point out here, and speaking as a person who teaches about the Mongols, usually 2 or 3 times a year, this has ruined some people's world. But if you've ever read the books or seen the TV show for Game of Thrones, the Dothraki are copy-pasted Mongols. Martin really just changed the name of the people, and he copied and pasted their entire culture into the Dothraki. So even their title, like the Dothraki title is Call. Well, isn't that just that with one word or one letter gone? Yeah. The Dothraki are Mongols. They're all about some horses. They fight each other a lot. One strong leader puts together a unified culture or political group, and then when that person dies, it's all down to the fighting. Sacred places where they meet to have cultural events. Yep. It's just the Mongols. So now you might actually know more about the Mongols than you actually already thought you did, because you can take examples from the Dothraki. Khal Drogo was pretty hot, so I'm okay with it. Let us never forget that Jason Momoa started off on Baywatch. So there we go. So you have this concept of Khan, which is a leader. And Genghis Khan looks great with the white hair. I'm about to show you the picture of Genghis Khan with the hair there. So Khan is just a title. It is a title that many people could hold at once. It was, yeah, I knew somebody was going to do that. I knew it was going to happen. And in fact, in the announcement that I posted, I actually put a little disclaimer there that says, come see how long it's going to take before someone makes a Star Trek reference. I wanted to stay as far away from that as possible when I was coming up with the title for the stream, which, by the way, is Do You Really Want to Yurt Me? And as I had to reach out to the mod squad to help me out with that one. I supplied the material for that one, but KP actually came up with that specific line there, so credits to KP. Is it true that Genghis Khan affected climate change? Yes. Yes, he did, because he killed so many people. He's also responsible for about 1/7 or 1/8 of the lineage of basically anybody that lives in Asia right now. Yup. Yeah, but that's because he raped lots of people. Genghis Khan is not a nice guy. At all. So let's speak of Genghis Khan, because we have now reached the point where we need to start talking about him. And I'll show you the picture of this guy. So there's again a yurt. So this is Genghis Khan. Now sometimes you might see his name written Chinggis. I don't really like that very much. There are people that have adopted that, and there are arguments about C's and G's in literary history, and we won't get into that. Grandpa? we won't get into the argument between C and G because I think if Mac and Labcoat is in the room, he might get triggered. So there's old Genghis for you. So who is this guy? Well, we don't really know exactly when he was born. Sometime around the 1200 range. Estimates put it right around 1200. He was born in the 1100s. We know that he took over a title as Khan somewhere around 1206. I want to throw up a disclaimer to say that I in no way idealize Genghis Khan, but I do appreciate Mongol culture. Oh, yeah. I think we're all comfortable in the room with going, these people were murdering hordes of psychopathic people that raped and pillaged and murdered. I don't think that we have to ignore that part to learn about them as a people. So, Galanuva, I'm right there with you. Speak for yourself. Oh, Kyle. You nincompoop. So, Genghis... I guess I should write Genghis since we're talking about him. Genghis is going to take over a small tribe somewhere in the early 1200s, and he's going to have this sort of vision. Not like a vision on drugs or something like that, but he has a long-term goal where he wants to unite all of the Mongol people. He's sort of a Mongol Genghis Khan. Oh, man. What would I do with an empire? I could think of a lot of things I would do with an empire. Let's just leave that. Let's leave that one alone before we get off into the weeds way too deep. So anyway, Genghis has this idea: a pillage, of course. Use it to buy nice things for your wife. I try to buy nice things for you anyway. Though, just to be honest, I mean, if you want something, you can get it. I don't really care too badly, as long as it's not like super expensive or something like that. Anyway. He has this idea that if the Mongols were to stand together and stop fighting amongst themselves, that they would be able to be a dominant power. Because there actually were hundreds of thousands of these people out there. But again, they fought amongst themselves all the time. And the only way that they would recognize one leader is if they all basically got beaten up by one person. Go to Dollar General and get yourself something nice. That is... you guys. She wants a burrito shadow box. When's the last time you wanted to... Okay, we're not going to have this discussion on stream in front of everybody, but my wife knows that... Oh, goodness gracious. This is the problem with having internet technology. I try not to say no. I try to give input. Because we're a team. Getting Shane on those tangents. Yeah. A burrito shadow box would be awesome, by the way. I have a burrito coaster. And I would very much like a burrito t-shirt. Hint, hint, hint. Hint, hint, hint. Anyway. So... Genghis decides he's going to unite the clans. He's going to beat up all of the other Khans and turn them into an organized fighting force. And this is no small feat because, again, there are hundreds of thousands of these people out there. And it takes him about 21 years to accomplish his goal. And he's very successful. He understands that that fighting is one way of doing things. He also understands that intimidation is a way of doing things, and he also understands that flat-out bribery is a way of doing things. So he is a true politician. He's also a bloodthirsty, murdering, crazy guy. You can be smart and a murderer at the same time. Have you seen the giant tortilla blankets? Yes, I have seen those. I can make myself a burrito. So once Genghis is able to unite all of the individual disparate Mongol clans, he's then going to turn them against all of the other people in Asia. He especially wants to take out the sort of big power players at the time, that being the Chinese and the Indians, people in India. So if we're looking at, I need to zoom out a little bit on our map here. So if we're trying to put this in geographic perspective, Genghis Khan's going to unite roughly this region right in here. China is very rich at the time, has lots of population at the time. The same can be true for over here in India. There was a government going over here in India called the Sultanate of Delhi, which was incredibly rich and powerful. And trade between India and China along the Silk Road was the economy of the world at this time. If you look at the period of time from around the 1100s to about the 1500s, trade in Asia was the world's economy. The Silk Road equated for something between a third and a half of all money being spent on stuff. Asia was the dominant power in the world. Europe was not. I'll say that again. Europe was not even close to the dominant power in the world at the time. China and India both had much larger polities. They had larger trade routes. They had more money. They had better organized central governments. There you go. India was one of the two largest nations in the world and one of the most rich nations in the world. Yeah. There we go. Europe was good at warring. Yes, they were. They were mostly good at warring with themselves. Though they had just recently lost a few battles over here against some Turkish people in the Third and Fourth Crusades. Well, the Fourth Crusade didn't actually get over there, so Second and Third Crusades, I should say. Lots of fighting amongst Europe. Europe was not the center of the world at the time. But the Mongols wanted those places. They wanted the money. They wanted the cool stuff. They wanted the status. They wanted to live in these big cities. They wanted to sit on all these thrones. It would be interested in the history of how Europe overcame the East as a major power at some point. Yeah, we'll get there. The biggest example that I can give you right away as a bit of a hint is gunpowder. Gunpowder and the Enlightenment, which completely decoupled morality from money making. That's how Europe took over the rest of the world. There you go, a tank. Yeah, we will definitely get there. I know we're moving very, very slowly through history chronologically on Thursday nights, but if you want to talk about that specifically, that would be a good topic for viewer request episode. So Genghis wants to take over all of this spot. The problem is that because they are very large and very powerful and very wealthy, they also have very large armies. And the Mongols are not going to be able at that time to take over either India or China, though they try. Genghis really wants China, and he takes a lot of the sort of kind of region around China, right in this area. He doesn't get down into China itself. He also tries to invade India and is not really able to, but all of this, all of this, and even over here falls to Genghis's expansion. This guy is ruthless. He has battle strategies that the rest of the world can't really hang with. The Mongolian battle strategy is essentially get all of their horses together and use their compound and composite bow technology to outshoot you from a distance. And they ride in big circles around you, break through your lines, and shoot you until you're all dead. And because there are just so many of them, they literally are a horde of enemies on horseback. These guys are super scary, really, really, really devastatingly so. So they're also experiencing a bit of luck because around the same time that Genghis is expanding, the leadership of the Turkish dynasty over here, which was the Seljuk dynasty, is sort of falling apart. So there's a bit of a power vacuum in what would have been the traditional Muslim regions over here in the Near East. So he expands into that. And he's going to put together this giant chunk of empire. So let me show you a picture of what Genghis Khan's empire looked like, because I can show it to you and then I can actually show it to you. So this is humongous. Gigantic chunk of land. The empire that Genghis Khan put together at that time was the largest empire that the world had ever seen. And to this day, the Mongol Empire is still the largest empire that the world has ever seen. It's absolutely expansive. Oh yeah, they totally sacked Baghdad. Baghdad is situated right about here, around the confluence of the Tigris and Euphrates River. Right about here in modern-day Iraq. The logistics of communication must have been a challenge. Absolutely. The logistics were a nightmare. Which is why we're going to have to talk about what happens to the Mongol Empire after Genghis dies. Because when Genghis dies, he dies the most powerful man on the face of the earth. And all of the Mongols go, okay, well, we were unified because of Genghis, now we're not unified anymore. Now, we just claim whatever we can put our hands on. And this is going to lead to lots of different chunks of the Mongol Empire splitting up. We will talk about these in turn, and we'll start with a guy named Kublai. And I just clicked off my images when I should have shown you the image of Kublai. So this is Kublai. Kublai Khan. He is going to take over a big chunk of the Mongol homeland. I've actually got a map of this a little bit that I can show you. I probably should have put that at the beginning, but we'll come back around to it. Kublai Khan is the grandson. You guys with the grandma. So Kublai Khan is the grandson of Genghis Khan. He is going to take over a big portion of the sort of traditional native Mongolian homeland. Kublai is also going to do something that his granddad could not do. Kublai is going to take over China. And there is a very violent war where Kublai and his Mongols finally break into China, because at that point China had been effectively cut off from the rest of their trade because of the Mongols taking everything between there and Europe, right? They still had a very large navy, China did, but they weren't able to contain or maintain their status of life, and this made a lot of people at home very angry. So there's internal strife within China. Kublai Khan is going to capitalize on that. He's going to take over China, and he establishes what we call in history the Yuan dynasty of China. This runs from 1271 to 1368 AD. This is going to end the Song dynasty, S-O-N-G, who had been basically the smartest people on the face of the earth. The Chinese Renaissance under the Song dynasty was one of the largest expansions of technological knowledge that humankind has ever seen. You need to finish the second season of Marco Polo. I tried to watch that show. It didn't work for me. I really appreciate the cinematography. It's a beautiful, beautiful show. But the history, not so much. Kublai is going to claim, by the way, that he is the official leader of all Mongol territory. So everything that his granddad conquered is his. But as you might expect, there are other people that are going to do the same thing. Some of them sort of tip their hat to Kublai Khan and go, yeah, sure, you're the great Khan, but they just leave it all out. I've heard the historical aspects are just a mess. Oh yeah, it's bad. So Kublai Khan is, for those of you following the chat, he is an incredibly famous and wealthy leader of China. He is one of the most wealthy individuals that's ever lived on Earth. He receives travelers from all over the world. Marco Polo, of course, the Italian traveler who made his way all the way from Italy over there, comes back with the fanciful tales of all of the stuff that they have over in China, and is one of the reasons why you end up with this search for passageways to Asia and Europe. You also see a guy named Ibn Battuta who travels around a lot as a Muslim traveler that has some experiences over in Asia. Kublai Khan is going to pass down his throne to his family. It doesn't last so long. By the time you get into the middle 1300s, especially around 1350, the native Chinese people had their fill of the Mongols. They did not like being led by these barbarians from the north, because when Kublai came in, he rearranged all of the land, he stole stuff and gave it to his followers. He destroyed a lot of stuff that was sort of important to Chinese history. You'd like to go to Kublai Khan. Kublai Khan, where you eat Chinese food and stare at fabulous wealth that you can't ever own. So in the early 1360s, there's a revolt by the Chinese that's led partially by the end of the last few remnants of the Song dynasty and a couple of other big powerful groups in China. And by 1368, they push the Yuan dynasty out. There are Mongols that stay around in that area. There are Mongol politic groups that hold part of what is modern-day Mongolia, northern China, all the way through the 1500s. But the Yuan dynasty ends under Kublai Khan in 1368. Quarantine Khan. Yeah. Mongolian barbecue for the win. Yeah. I actually quite like barbecue. I like Chinese food and Mongolian barbecue. I'm a food guy. If I did nothing but eat as much as I wanted to, I'd be a very, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I'm hungry right now. I had dinner, but I'm hungry again, which is weird. Probably because I didn't eat very much for lunch. But okie dokie. What about all the rest of the stuff? Well, there are a lot of them. So let's talk about the Chagatai Khanate. So, one of Genghis's sons is this guy named Chagatai. And when his father dies, of course, Chagatai is going to claim rulership of everything. The problem is, he doesn't get a lot of stuff, because Kublai ends up taking over the really coolest stuff over in China, and Chagatai's kind of stuck with some territory right here in Central Asia, where there's a lot of boundaries and a lot of people coming after you. So the Chagatai Khanate is sort of in this little region right in here where we have... today it's a lot of the countries that end with Stan, right? Like Pakistan, Afghanistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan. I know you all know all these countries. But the Central Asian region right here is where the Chagatai Khanate is. They're able to hold on mostly because they have big trade cities through that region, especially the capital city of Samarkand, which is a very, very big trade hub. It's modern-day Uzbekistan. So Chagatai Khanate is going to be rich, but it's also going to be in the middle of everybody. And when you have bad guys all around you, you know what's going to end up happening to that. Chagatai Hadi. I couldn't find a good picture of this guy. I found a trinket statue that people were trying to sell as like a collectible item, but I couldn't find any historical images that I thought were accurate. So I don't have a picture of that guy, unfortunately. Shagadi Khanate is going to show up right after Genghis dies in 1220, and there's going to be some version of them holding territory in this sort of Central Asia region all the way up into the 1680s. Now, of course, the territory is going to be very, very much diminished. They're going to go through different periods of being conquered, both by other Mongols and by other people, like different branches of Muslim dynasties that move through this area. So Shagadi hangs around for a while, but doesn't really have a lot of good success. There are lots and lots of fighting in this area. Lots and lots of fighting. One of the biggest and probably the second most important of the remnant kingdoms of Genghis is this the group that's over in Europe called the Golden Horde. Golden Horde. I found a resource recently that went through all the different cons, but I can't remember how I found it. An internet deep dive. Yeah. There are good genealogical records of all of these regions and peoples. Finding photographs of them is a little bit harder, especially ones that I would consider potentially accurate to what the person actually looked like. So, like, if you go Google Chagadi Khan, you're going to find pictures that people have drawn, like fan art and stuff like that, but that doesn't necessarily mean I would trust it as even kind of historical source. So, the Golden Horde is founded by a guy named Batu Khan, who originally was... I'm trying to click over to my images here. I'm getting puppy-nosed. This is Batu Khan. And he had originally sworn allegiance to Chagadi because Chagadi was, he was Genghis' son. But Batu found out pretty quickly that it was going to be easier and more lucrative for him to break away from the Chagadi Khanate and basically form his own country, which he did, which became the Mongols of the Golden Horde. The Golden Horde is right on the borders with Europe, and these guys become the bad guys in all of the European stories. So if you know anything about stuff like Russian or Polish or Slavic mythology, even some Germanic mythology or folk stories, and the bad guy is a Mongol, it starts with Batu, because these are the Mongols that are going to cause absolute havoc over in Europe. They're going to burn down churches, they're going to raid big cities all throughout Eastern and Central Europe. I don't know what the yup is in reference to. Breaking off and forming your own country is always an option. Speaking as somebody from Mississippi, I don't know how I should respond to that. By the way, to sort of give you an idea, and again, I've got a map that I'll show you in just a moment. The Golden Horde is going to take over most of this region here. The sort of Central Asia, Northern Europe, Central Asia here, Western and Central. Good gracious, my coordinates are way off. I'm referencing them to be the bad guys in all the Slavic movies. Yeah. I'm right there with you. These are the Mongols they show up in Voltaire, right? If you've ever read Candide. These are the bad guy Mongols that are super big and super problematic. And for about 300 years, these guys wreck Eastern Europe. There are famous paintings that come out of the Renaissance showing European kings kneeling down to the Khans of the Golden Horde in super humiliation. It's really bad. And to make it even worse for the Europeans, around 1300, the Golden Horde are going to convert away from Tengrism and to Islam. So now you have Muslim Mongols, and if you know anything about European history, that's like two of the scariest things together. So this is like alien predator hybrid stuff. Two of your worst nightmares in one form. And they are fanatically Muslim. They are all about spreading Islam at the point of a sword. This was mostly done as a political move, it seems, by the leadership. The growing strength of the Turkish people down in here, especially the Ottoman people around the same time, is going to put a lot of pressure on the Golden Horde to sort of follow suit if they want to keep trade ties up with their closest neighbors and keep out of trouble with them. But it's pretty bad for Europe. The Golden Horde is super scary. One of the shortest lived, and actually the shortest lived, of the remnants of Genghis's empire is something that's called the Ilkhanate. The Ilkhanate is situated basically in what we would call the ancient Near East. So in Turkey, in Syria, in the Transcaucasia region, in Mesopotamia, and in Persia. So this sort of little pocket right over in here, parts of Arabia. This is where, if you'll remember me saying, there was a bit of a power vacuum because the Seljuk Turks were falling out of power, and Genghis was able to expand into that. This region especially is going to be a direct response to the collapse of the Seljuks. Genghis is going to be able to get down in there and take over that area with a lot of fighting, a lot of bloodshed, and it's also going to be very, very short-lived. It doesn't even make it 100 years. It's founded by this guy named Hulagu Khan, who is a grandson of Genghis, and it's going to be under a lot of pressure. The people that they're ruling had been, at that point, Muslim for over 6 centuries. They don't like this Tengri guy at all. Tengri to them is to a Muslim person would look at Tengri as pagan, and that doesn't suit very well. The Mongols would look at the hordes of the rulers of Islam as loot, and there's lots of looting in mosques and things like that, which of course is traumatic to the people group there. But when the Muslim people sort of get their unified act together, there's going to put a lot of pressure on the Ilkhanate. The Ilkhanate is actually going to convert to Islam prior to the Golden Horde. So about 1295, 5 years earlier than the Golden Horde, the Ilkhanate converts to Islam. And then it's almost downhill from there. Not saying that Islamic conversion was the thing that got them out of power. That was just the sort of high watermark of their power in the region. Everything after that fact, not necessarily because of that fact, but after it, was bad news. Most notably, there's the Black Death, which of course ravages the Near East and Europe really, really horribly. There's a very large drought in the Near East at that time, so food production in the region drops catastrophically. And of course, because there is just so much money and the population is so high, the Ilkhanate has really, really tough times with rebellion. And so the Ilkhanate falls apart in 1353. And then you would think, okay, so we've talked about all these different groups. That's sort of the last go. To kind of recap here, let's look at our map that I've been referring to a couple of times. All right, so here we go. This is Khanates after 1279. You see the Yuan dynasty over here in China under Kublai. You see the Chagati here in the middle. The Golden Horde stretching all the way over into Central Europe. I don't necessarily like this map very much. I believe that the Golden Horde would have had much more territory in this region. And then, of course, you have the Ilkhanate again in what we would call the sort of old ancient Near East. So lots and lots of land, all under Mongols. But, oh, I have a picture of Hulagu. There's Hulagu. Hulagu Khan. I forgot about Hulagu. This is the first sort of unified ruler of the Ilkhanate. And what's unique here is that if you see, this has Arabic writing on it and is pretty clearly done in an Arabic art style, because the people that Hulagu was ruling were a predominantly Muslim people, and the official language of Islam is Arabic. So there you go. This is probably more Persian style now that I'm looking at it a little bit more closely, but art history is a different thing. What is he holding? That's a great question. He might be holding bread. He could also be holding some sort of dish maybe to drink out of, perhaps. I'm not certain. Flatbread? We'll go with it. A potato. Hulagu, the Irish Khan. Heard that the Mongols basically captured artists and made them paint Mongol history. Yeah, they did, because this is going to get potentially insulting if I said it that way. There were not a lot of well-developed art themes in Mongol culture, but other cultures had developed a lot of artistic themes and styles that the Mongols really liked. So because they didn't have a style of their own, they took over other people's styles and said, hey, you, draw me a picture. Okay, so you might think that's the sort of end of the Mongols, but there is one more guy. This guy. Would I be provided all of the horse meat I could eat? Potentially, why not? Why reinvent the wheel? Exactly. So this guy is a dude named Temujin. You might also know him as Tamerlane. Temujin is going to be an interesting figure for a couple of reasons. Let me get back over to my thing here. There we go. Temujin, Tamerlane, and he is the leader of the Timurid dynasty. What? Deal capture approved? I don't know to what you're whatting. Ted Nugent? No. No, not Ted Nugent. Tiger scratch fever. Aww. Temujin was the birth name of Genghis Khan. Well, there's a good link. There we are. Temujin is a different guy. That's why you also see him referred to as Tamerlane, which is an anglicized and, well, I guess it's technically Hellenized version of his name. To Mongols capturing artists. Oh. If you got captured by a Mongol, I don't know if art would be what they were after. Mongols were not nice to women captives. So, not to bring that down, but there we go. So, who is this guy and why is he important? Well, there is one sort of last gasp of Mongol power. Oh, no. Galanuva. Tamerlane and Genghis Khan are different people completely. They have a name that they share, but they are utterly different people. Genghis Khan is dead about 150 years before Tamerlane first takes over. So this Temujin, Tamerlane, doesn't start conquering until about 1370. They are different people. So there's like a bajillion Temujins. They just have the same name. It's like John. You know, there are a bajillion people named Johns. Or Williams, you know. But yeah, they're two different people. But art, right? They don't. So to begin with, and this is going to sound super misogynist, but this is the history that we live with. If you were living in a Muslim world, as a woman, you wouldn't have been allowed to do art anyway. You would not have at this time period, you would not have the cultural ability to produce works of art. There are also a lot of cultural standards about what counts as art and what can't count as art. If you were a Persian woman, you might be able to get away with writing poetry. But painting, no, right out. In today's world, women have much better goes of things. In the ancient world, and especially in a lot of these cultures that we're talking about, women were considered property of their husbands. So, random history fact about daily Mongolian life. So there are actually quite a few neat little bits of stories that we pick up about sort of kind of what people did on a daily basis. The horse herding clearly doesn't take up all of your time, mostly because horses are fairly independent animals and can kind of take care of themselves. And up in that part of Mongolia and in the sort of Central European steppe area, there are predators that you sort of have to watch out for. But horses can kick the crap out of a wolf, or even a bear to a certain extent, but a horse could just outrun a bear. So there is a lot of competition amongst sort of the day-to-day life of the Mongols. Lots of archery competitions, especially being a good shot with a bow, especially at a distance on horseback while moving. That was really something to brag about. And you see lots of wrestling and sort of like machismo-based things going on in daily life where, you go up and you check on the horses, and then for the middle part of the day, what are you going to do? You take a nap, have some food, arm wrestle with Jimmy, that kind of stuff. It sounds misogynistic because it really is. It's not even kinda. It just really is. I know they still practice that in Turkey and probably Mongolia too. Yeah. Horseback archery. I guess I can go ahead and skip to the last image that I have here since I'm talking about it so much. Horseback archery was central to these people. This is a Chinese picture of a Mongolian riding a horse, shooting a bow. They did invent the double recurve bow. There you can see it right there and right there. Boom, boom. And they also did a lot of work on composite bows, where you make bows out of layered materials like bone and very hard wood and then lacquer all of them together. Their bows were capable of shooting really, really long distances. And that absolutely caused trouble for everybody else in the world, because if my bow shoots further than your bow, I can kill you before you can kill me. And if I have an army of 8,000 horseback archers, I can ride within my bow range. I can shoot 8,000 arrows at you when you can't shoot a single arrow at me, and then I can ride away before you can even get your bearings. You've got your eye on a Mongol horse bow if they ever get your darn tax refund processed. One of the postdocs in your old lab from Mongolia, and she told me that they have holidays that feature horseback archery competitions. There we go. They could fire an arrow further than a European longbow at half the length. There we go. All of these are good. Right on board. Good data. Lots of good stuff. Bows and horseback archery are big in the Mongolian culture. I'd love to know where you're going to be able to find a Mongolian bow. Do you know somebody that still keeps the tradition alive by making actual traditional Mongolian composite bows? Ali Bow. Let me grab yeah, I'd actually be super interested in seeing that. I'll have to check that out. So let's talk about Temujin, or Tamerlane here. Why did I bring him up? Well, he's super important because he's going to be the last sort of big, unified, scary, unified Mongol leader. And when I say unified, I mean he tries to put the world back together. Temujin believed that he was sort of the reincarnation of Genghis's idea. And there's some evidence that he tried to maybe claim that he was even part of Genghis's family. He wasn't, most certainly not, or almost certainly not. Where did the sport of flinging around goat carcasses on horses come from? That is I think that is originally from the Hephthalites. Yeah, that's Afghanistan and Pakistan. I don't know for certain where that came from. I think it might be from a group of people called the Hephthalites. Let me put that here in case you're interested in Googling. They're also called the White Huns. So that might be... but I don't know that for certain, Fid. But yes, that is in the that could also be Gurid, now that I'm thinking about that. So if you want to Google that, you could also maybe Google Gurids. Now I kind of want to know myself. So if you figure that out, let me know. I know it was in Rambo. Anyway, so Temujin is going to have this idea that he could put the Mongols back together again. That he was going to be the new Khan of Khans. And he was going to reunify the entire Mongol world. And he does a pretty good job of getting there. Now, he doesn't get all the way there. He's going to start from a capital at a place called Samarkand. I mentioned that earlier. It's in modern-day Uzbekistan. By the way, for those Final Fantasy fans out there, Final Fantasy X's lead character Tidus comes from a city called Zanarkand, which is very clearly modeled after Samarkand. And a lot of Final Fantasy X references come from this sort of high medieval Central Asian world. Now you get to go look up all of the overlaps. Fiberglass and not real wood. There are real Mongolian-made horse bows that are gorgeous real wood, but are several $100s more. Yeah, I'm going to check that link out after the stream. I really like the concept of shooting bows. Anyway, that's a whole other world. But thank you for the link. Yeah, Final Fantasy X is good stuff. So Tamerlane is going to conquer a lot of stuff. He manages to do something that Genghis Khan could not do. Most notably, he gets into India and he raids northern India. This is something that that Genghis was not able to do. He raids the Sultanate of Delhi, and the actions of Tamerlane are part of the largest contributing force that actually creates a domino effect that causes the Sultanate of Delhi to fall into ruin, mostly because he steals all of their money, and then they can't keep people in line because they have no money, right? Unfortunately, the Timurid dynasty is never going to be as strong after he dies as they were before. I can show you a map of their extent, though. So it's not the Mongol Empire, right? It's not the Empire of Genghis, but it is a very large region. And around 1400, this would have been one of the larger of the Mongol remnants, picking up parts of what used to be the Ilkhanate, parts of what used to be the Golden Horde, and parts of what used to be the Chagati Khanate, and putting them together in one big chunk that was the Timurid dynasty. So after that, though, the Mongols are going to be not nearly as successful when it comes to maintaining a unity. There are clearly still going to be Mongol peoples. There are still going to be Mongol peoples that control cities and regions, but after that point, there are not really going to be any more big unified Mongol states until modern Mongolia. And even that wasn't particularly going to ever be a big, powerful country. There's a lot of politics involved between Russia and China that helped create the modern-day country of Mongolia. So that sort of brings me to my desired end discussion on my part. Does anybody else have a question about anything? Anybody want to elaborate on a particular point? Anybody want to bring up another fact? Lots of good conversation tonight. I'm very pleased as a historian that so many people found some connections here and brought in some stuff. Do you know about Kutulun? I know about Kunlun, but I don't think that's what you're referring to. Are you talking about Kutulun Khan? I know that there was a lady Khan. I don't know too much about her. Is that who you're talking about? The Khaness, if there is. I have not seen the film Mongol. Didn't get the notification. Sorry, Graythar. Are there any times of peace for Genghis? So he fights basically his entire adult life. He takes a few periods of time here and there off, but his life was pretty much just fighting. But welcome, Graythar, by the way. I don't think I actually wrapped that up and said welcome. You don't know if she was a Khan, but she was a famous female Mongol warrior. I've heard her name. I don't know too terribly much about her. I think she was in the Yuan dynasty. I think she was either a sister or a cousin to Kublai Khan. But I don't know too much else about her. I think that's, I think that's all that I know about the name. I thought that I had read that under the Mongols, they're the first use of paper money. China was using paper money under the Song dynasty, which was the dynasty just prior to Kublai taking over. One of the things that Kublai did was spread paper money around a lot because of the area that he controlled. The Song dynasty had, in the relationship of size to dynasties, the Song dynasty had a very small amount of land that they controlled. It was mostly the southern part of China. The Mongols controlled a large part of the northern part of China, going all the way back to the remnants of the Jin dynasty. Kublai definitely expanded that use and made it very, very popular in all of China, not just down in the southern part. I think you would like Mongol. It follows up Genghis' life. He was a small boy up to the point that becomes a Khan. How accurate is it? You have no idea. I'll give it a check. Oh, one thing. I think that I need to play the music because I see that Graythar has subscribed, and I think that he did it a couple of days ago in David Peterson's stream. So I need to play the Spartacus, because if you subscribe, you get to hear the Spartacus. So Graythar, this is for you, my friend. No, I am Spartacus. But you could be Spartacus. But we're all Spartacus. I am Spartacus. Thanks for the subscription, Graythar. I really appreciate that. One step closer to me getting a better webcam. Okie dokie. Other questions, comments? I am Brian. Always keep on the sunny side of life, right, Joey? Okay. Anybody want to redeem channel points, please feel free to do so. For those of you that might be new to the stream, I have lots of different options for channel points, not just the sort of stereotypical ones that come sort of preloaded with Twitch. I am going to go over here to the dashboard and start working on our poll, because this is viewer request, and I've been asked to let slip the puppy of war. Let me get the puppy. Hey, you want to come up and see me? Completely disinterested. Completely disinterested. Okay, come here. Come and see me. There we go. There's the puppy. Oh, sugars. Need some more sugars? You doing okay? Oh, thank you. All right. All right, so, yeah, this is the puppy of war. She was actually dozing on her puppy bed right here beside me. I had to sort of prod her to wake her up with my foot. On that note, whopping sum of 10,000 adventure points. You can choose, yeah, so there's one. If you have 10,000 adventure points, you can just redeem them and say, I want to talk about this next stream. It won't technically be the next stream, but it will be the next viewer request stream. No death chicken? No, the chicken was probably up front somewhere. Her puppy bed made from the bones of her fallen enemies. It's actually from, oh crud, what's that store that we got it from? Kohl's? It's just a big square pillow with a blanket on top of it because she sheds like crazy. All right, so as is our tradition, I'm going to hold over the second place winner from the last show, which was Alexander Hamilton. And I will now take 3 suggestions from you all as to what you want to talk about in the next viewer request stream. And the floor is yours. And let me remind everybody, we could talk about any period of history. It doesn't have to be ancient history. It could be stuff that happened 2 weeks ago. It could be goofy stuff. It can be a topic. It doesn't have to be a time period. It doesn't have to be. It could be a like I want to talk about propaganda in World War II, or I want to talk about I don't know, the history of the gun or something like that, you know. So anything that you can think of that would be interested, spit them out. So Celtic mythology is on there. Talk about Cuchulainn and the Ulster cycle and all of that stuff that I could do off the top of my head. Celtic clans, know about your actual heritage, SCA persona. What if with your permission, what if I blended Celtic clans with mythology and we sort of did a unified Celtic people stream? Would that be okay with you? Would that be okay with both of you that mentioned Celtic stuff? Collapse of the British Empire post-World War II. All right. Post-World War II Britain. Ooh, the Troubles. Okay. I actually read a book about that last summer. So we're going to do Celtic mythology. We'll just do Celtic culture. How about that? Alrighty. So I am going to start the poll. And here we go. So if you look in your chat window, there will be a drop-down menu up at the top. You'll have to click a down caret key, and it will show you the options. Make sure that you vote. I will honor whatever the vote is. Oh man, I actually get to vote myself, by the way. Fit, I'm not ignoring the fact that I have to finish watching Hamilton if we pick Hamilton. By the way, half of my family is from Ireland. My dad's side of the family. So I have a lot of Irish kind of love. Who the hell is Hamilton? Alexander Hamilton is one of the founding fathers of the United States. He was a very important politician that helped craft a lot of the early political ideas that the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence were built around. He's the father of our sort of earliest economic structures and banking structures. I recognize that he doesn't necessarily have universal appeal, but I feel like I have to honor my... what am I trying to say here? So the rule is whatever wins gets next, and number 2 gets held over until the next poll. So you don't know anything about your extended Irish family? Well, I've got some cousins over there. Major Figure Resolution. Yeah. And if you've seen the Broadway musical Hamilton. All right. So there we go. By a resounding 7-3 vote. The topic is Celtic culture. This is good. I like it. I am happy. It is a cluster duck. I would be happy to cover any sort of topics. The whole reason the viewer request streams exist is for me to give my audience exactly what they want. So, there we go. All right, so we'll hold Alexander Hamilton over to the next stream, and we'll take a couple of more requests next time around. So this is going to be done not next Tuesday, but the following Tuesday. The next stream for us is on this Thursday, so 2 days, and we're going to be carrying on with our chronological take on history. We're going to be discussing the sort of transition out of the collapse of the Bronze Age and into the early Bronze Age. We're going to talk about some people called the Phoenicians. We're going to talk about how Assyria sort of gets a head start in the coming out of the collapse game and becomes pretty powerful after that. So that's what we're talking about on Thursday. I will make an announcement because there is there has been a lot of confusion, and I do get emails about this. I've decided that we're going to do everything from now on at the 7 p.m. Central Standard Time frame. So normally we did viewer requests at 6 and the regular show on Thursday nights at 7. I am almost certain that I'm going to change that so that we're doing both shows at 7. If that hurts your feelings, let me know. I won't change it if I get an outcry of support for that. I think what I'm trying to do, though, is line everything up for the ease of everybody. Well, Seven Francis, thank you very much. I'm glad that you had a good time. And I hope that you can come back around next time. And it's that time again for everybody to talk about who we're going to raid. And I've only got one channel that I follow that is currently active, and that is our friend Art of Lee, friend of the channel. So I think we'll go raid Lee. Our cry of raid is adventure. And if you would like to, you may unlock the adventure hat, which is our current emote. You're showing cat videos as streaming. I don't see her up right now on my list. It's not showing me that option for cat videos. Maybe I can manually do it? Oh. Twitch panel is being a big jerk. Because I have 3 people that are showing up over here that aren't showing up in Twitch command panel. I'm seeing Steve sketches, Art of Lee, and cat videos. You're seeing Cat as well. Okay, well, let's go raid Cat. We haven't raided her in a little while. So let's go raid Cat videos. Again, our cry will be adventure with all of our fun adventure hats.
If you're interested in the egg stream, hopefully you didn't miss it, but now it's the eating stream.
So
there will be more egg streams.
It looks like she's eating bread and toast.
Okay.
Is she just eating?
Ready for the sexiness?
I don't know if I want to necessarily raid her while she's actually eating. How about Steve? Let's see what Steve is doing. It's like she was literally eating a fried egg and toast. Like, yeah. Okay, this is selling me. Steve is doodling a halfling, and it looks a lot like a hobbit. So I think we're going to go raid Steve. Again, so adventure, lots of adventure hats. I will click the button here, and I'll move over to our outro page. Thank you all for coming by. I appreciate all of you being active in the chat and sharing with me your world for a couple of hours. I will see you all on Thursday. Until then, I hope everything goes well for you, and I will see you around.